To those of you joining us today, thank you for watching the Woburn Spotlight. I'm your host, Tyler Gates, here to bring you some positivity by talking to those in town making big strides for the greater good. Today I'm fortunate to have with me a repeat guest, Senator Cindy Friedman. Thank you for coming by again.
Thanks, Trevor. It's good to be here.
It's always a pleasure to see you, talk a little shop, talk a little bit about family.
Yep.
But I know we talked a little bit before today's agenda, and we have a pretty loose meeting. We can take it a couple of different ways.
Any way you want to go.
Okay. Well, for those of you who are at home that may not be as familiar with Senator Friedman, do you mind just telling us a little bit about your background? I know we could go on for the whole 30 minutes, but a little about you.
So I am the state senator for the city of Woburn, Billerica, Burlington, Arlington, and 3/4 of Lexington.
Just 3/4.
Just 3/4. I don't have three of the precincts. So yes, and I've been in the Senate this is my second session, and before that I was the chief of staff to the late, wonderful Ken Donnelly.
And you have some big shoes to fill.
I have some big shoes to fill.
But doing a darn good job at it by most people's criteria,
well,
I'd like to think.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you.
Even Brian was sharing with me a piece of information I didn't know. You were voted last year as Legislator of the Year in some capacity at the end of the year?
Oh, yes, I think the Mass Association of Psychologists.
I believe that was the one that I was reading about.
Yeah.
That's exciting, though.
Yeah, it is. No, it was a very nice recognition. It was, I think, because of the work that I did on the opioid bill.
That's, I think they spoke a lot to that in the article that I got to read. And you spearheaded a lot of work in that realm.
Yes, I did. And had a great staff. And we really, I think, did some wonderful things for people and their people suffering with substance use disorder and their families. And so we're quite proud of that work.
As you should be.
Yeah, thanks.
I know we're going to go a couple of different directions today and not focus too much on the opioid epidemic, but do you mind just giving us a brief update on where you feel we stand today as compared to maybe the last time that we saw you, and any new news that's coming down the pike?
Well, I think the big news is that both the Department of Corrections and the Houses of Corrections, which are our sheriff's departments, are implementing medication-assisted treatment. So people who are coming into the Department of Corrections or to the Houses of Corrections are going to be getting treatment for their substance use disorder. And I think that's very exciting and a very positive step. It's just another way in which we're breaking down the barriers and the stigma to substance use disorder and making sure that people get the care that they need, because now we know it really is an illness like anything else. So that's the big news in that area, and it's, we're happy because we pushed very hard to get that into the bill.
And if my memory serves me right, there's a need, and what you guys were able to do with this allows you to fill that need much faster than anything that we've seen in the past.
Yes, and much more directly. A lot of people get caught up in the criminal justice system because of their illness, and when they unfortunately get into our jails or prison, they stop getting any treatment, and so they're not being treated. The recidivism rate when you leave is very, very high, and so this is going to help combat that, get people treatment, and get them hopefully back into the community.
Okay. Well, I appreciate the update on that. I know it's definitely top of mind for a lot of folks in this area.
Yes, it is. It's a big issue.
Yeah, certainly. Jumping back to Lexington, when you made the joke about 3/4 of the district, you spent some time in Lexington, I assume, probably yesterday for Patriots Day.
If you want to celebrate Patriots Day, there's only one place to be, and that is in Lexington, Massachusetts, because they really know how to do it.
Tell us a little bit about your day.
Well, it starts at 5 when they have the reenactment, and I did not go to the reenactment this year because one of our children was in town for a very short amount of time. But I have been there. I've been 4 times to the reenactment, and it actually is amazing. If people haven't done it, I really recommend it because it's so fascinating to see. It's the Battle of Lexington. It takes place on the green, and there's the redcoats and the colonial army, And it's a whole real reenactment. And then there's a big pancake breakfast that you can go to afterwards. And they have a kids parade, and then I came to see the riders who come every year from Boston with a declaration from the mayor.
Oh.
However, they didn't come this year because of the weather. So they were
I
worried that
didn't
it
know
was
that.
supposed to rain. But the parade went on, and the parade is just great. I
Yeah.
mean, and it's really, everybody's there.
Yeah.
It's a big community event, and it's really lots of fun.
That's great to
Yeah,
hear that.
yeah, yeah.
That's great to hear that.
Yeah.
Wonderful. And I know that you went to another event that you just mentioned to me, and I learned a little bit about just sitting here, Tanner's Closet, if I pronounced that correctly.
Yeah, I was invited to a fundraiser, which people were asked to bring clothing, food, school supplies. Evidently, Tanner's Closet was started by a teacher in the high school because of a need that one of her students had. And what they discovered was that there are actually lots of kids who might be food insecure or don't have school supplies that they need, or maybe even need some help with, clothing. And so Tanner's Closet is a room, and people donate school supplies, food, clothing, and anybody can come and take something that they need. And it's evidently been very successful. It's a wonderful idea. It's a way to support people who need help, but in a very quiet way where, no one asks what you're doing there. You don't have to prove that you need something or whatever. And so it was wonderful. And the people I met who are involved in it, they're just great. And it was just really made me feel good about, how people are treating other people in Woburn. It was really nice to see.
People helping people.
Yep, it was great.
Is there any common themes or items that you found Tanner's Closet had a lot of, or was in dire need of?
I think school supplies
General
were a
school
big
supplies
thing.
is
General school supplies, and then I think food. Food that can go home, and
Dry goods stuff?
dry goods,
Things
that kind
were-
of thing. Because I think what they were also finding out is people were saying, "Can I take something home from my sister? Can I?" So that's what I learned there. Now things could be different, but
Yeah.
and we'll be happy to get you the information about who.
Oh, yeah, no, that's okay. I
Yeah.
mean, we can definitely do a follow-up, maybe even
Yeah.
rope them to come in on the
That
show.
would be great. That
I
would
just
be
learned
great.
about the organization today,
Yeah.
and it sounds like there's absolutely a need for something like that.
Yeah.
Asking for help is hard sometimes.
Asking for help is hard, and there's so many people that just are food insecure, and you don't know them. They're your neighbors, they're your friends, and you don't know. And it's not because they don't work or because of some moral failing. It's
Yeah.
because sometimes it's really hard to make ends meet.
Yeah, great to see the community come together for
Yep,
stuff
and
like
it's
that.
great to see the community come around that.
Another community event, sticking with that theme, the beautiful library.
Oh, the library.
Oh, we both got to
Ah.
fortunately see it the first couple of days it was open. You went Friday, I saw it Saturday, but boy, was it awesome.
Oh
Is it
my
awesome?
goodness, it is jaw-droppingly beautiful. I just walked into that and thought the people in Woburn must be so proud of this, and I think it's going to be an amazing attraction. I think it's the whole building is so inviting and
It
so
is.
cool, and the way that they kept the kind of the structure, the way they kept the history of it, it's beautifully redone with all of the new pieces. I just think it's great. I think it's going to be a real community center. And
Very inviting, like you said.
applaud everyone in Woburn who worked hard to make it happen.
Was
It's
there any
wonderful.
unique things about it that stood out to you?
Well, the children's room, because I remember the children's room. The children's room is,
That was one of the big ones, huh?
yeah, oh my goodness. Can I stay down here? It's like, do you have to
don't
be a
have to duck.
kid? It's
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
I remember somebody was telling me that I was walking around with, they said, I'm so excited to bring my granddaughter back because she wouldn't come in the old one because she was scared. It was, and the restoration of the main. My husband and I just had been to Portugal, and we were in a place that was where the Harry Potter Hogwarts was modeled after.
Oh.
And when I walked into the main part of the library, it looked so much like that.
Really?
Oh, just beautifully, beautifully restored and very cool. All the wood and the balconies.
That's
and
really neat.
It was really
That's a neat comparison.
Yeah, yeah.
I will say, I think the one that stood out most to me was as you walk in, being able to see the beautiful brick from the outside. I would have never sat outside the library and seen that kind of beauty, but now it's just encompassed in what you have.
It's just encompassed, and it's seamless. You know, the transitions are just they're so well done. And the teen room, it's great.
Yeah.
You guys should feel very good.
Well, pop by anytime, huh?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I think I'm going to start having my office hours there.
Not a bad place to do something like that.
Right.
Yeah,
and if no one comes, I'll just get a book.
Either way, win-win. Right?
Yep. Exactly.
Oh, good. Well, I appreciate you sharing some of the things that's been keeping you busy around town. We always love to see activities and at events. Yeah. When I asked what was on the agenda recently, you said healthcare.
Yep.
Do you mind elaborating a bit on that?
Well, I'm now the Senate Chair of the Joint Committee on Healthcare Financing.
Okay.
So my job now is to shepherd or not all the bills that come that are filed that have to do with healthcare and healthcare costs. So as somebody said to me, if you do this for 3 or 4 years, you will have a PhD in healthcare financing. And I said, I'm not sure that that's what I set out to do, but actually I find it fascinating, and I find it so important, because what I hear from everybody is, I can't afford it anymore. I can't afford healthcare. And so I think we have to take a really hard look at how we finance healthcare and how we make it accessible and cost effective and efficient, so people can continue to afford it.
Since when, or not since when, but how long have you been in this current role, or that current role?
About 15 minutes.
Oh.
Or
okay.
January 20th.
15 minutes and
maybe it's 20 now, right?
World of,
right, yeah.
Oh,
I had
goodness.
some piece of it as I had visibility into it as the chair of the Mental Health and Substance Use and Recovery.
Sure. Yeah.
But this is a whole another kind of layer down.
Takes on a whole different magnitude.
Yes.
Anything that surprised you so far along the way?
Surprised at how complex it is, with no particular reason for being complex. I think we've made...
Okay.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of complexity in the system that is really unnecessary. And I think it drives up cost, and I think it doesn't help people with access. So I think that's a surprise. And then the whole pharmaceutical space and how that works has been quite an eye-opener to me. You know, from when it's manufactured, when a drug is manufactured, all the way to where it gets into somebody's hands to take. A very interesting, let's say, a system that often feeds a lot of people and is very good for a lot of people, except for the consumer. So I think we need to really look hard at how we deliver medication, pharmaceuticals to people in the community. We're spending a lot of money, and people can't afford the cost of medications anymore, and that's really serious. Very closed system, so we need to open it up a little and make it more transparent so we can understand where all those costs are going.
How many people are working with you on this committee?
Well, there's my staff.
Yeah.
And then there's my co-chair, who is the House chair, and she has a staff. So I think it's us. And then there's other people on the, on the committee. And then there's all the stakeholders.
Yeah.
And they're more than willing to tell you what's wrong and who needs to fix it.
So you're a professional listener?
I am a professional listener.
So complicated at this point?
Complicated.
Roll back. Some
yeah.
complications, make it a little more simple.
Yeah, and make, less administrative costs and overhead would be great. Addressing the high costs of pharmaceuticals, looking at price variations between our teaching hospitals, which are wonderful, and our community hospitals, which are also wonderful, but there's a huge disparity in what we pay for procedures at those places, and we need to look at that. And then the whole area around behavioral health and making sure that it is part of the system instead of carved out.
Carved out, okay.
So those are the things I think
So
we'll
you'll
be
definitely
looking at.
carry your expertise from your prior committees with you.
Yes,
really.
yeah, some of it, and putting more emphasis on primary care. I mean, we really need to enable our primary care physicians to be more active in people's whole health. Because what the research tells you is that the more dollars you spend in primary care, the better the outcomes. So, because you can, people, you can catch things early. If you have the time, you can understand more about what's going on with a person. When you're a specialist, you're just looking at that one thing and that one issue. But primary care physicians really, they're better able to treat a whole person. So.
They may have a better understanding of the entire lifestyle of that individual.
They do, and
along with conditions and.
I think they're trained to look at that.
Yeah.
If you go to a specialist and you have a headache, they want to look in your head. If you go to a primary care physician and you say, "I have a headache," they say, "Well, what's going on?"
Yeah, that's very true. Okay.
Yeah.
What do I know you've been a part of it for 15 minutes, as you say. What do the next 15 minutes hold for you? A couple months ahead.
Well, we had a big hearing last week on all the bills that had to do with pharmaceuticals, and so we'll be doing more hearings.
Okay.
We have over 100, I think it was about 187 bills, so we'll be having hearings on those bills, and we'll group them to try and keep themes together.
Yep.
So we'll be doing that, and then I'm the vice chair of the Senate Ways and Means. And so we'll be taking up the budget in May, so I know we're starting to focus on that. And I'll probably be focusing on the kind of healthcare parts of the budget. And that will be coming out for the Senate in May, and then mid-May, and then we'll have a version of our budget at the end of May, and then we'll conference it with the House in June.
Okay. Busy couple of months ahead then for
Very
the budget.
busy. Yeah, this is a busy time of year.
What does that look like for somebody that's not in the political scene? A lot of tennis, a lot of back and forth, or is it a lot of due diligence leading up to a final moment?
It's both. It's due diligence. It's coming up with what each branch's priorities are, and making sure that they're in line with what we have to spend.
Okay.
And that certainly in the Senate, it reflects very often reflects the priorities of the members. So there's a lot of work that goes behind that to understand where the money's going, and historically what we've done in a specific line item, a specific area. And then we put our budget out, and then it's a lot of back and forth.
Okay, yeah.
Then the negotiation.
That's a better way of putting it. The due diligence up front, and then the final,
and then
the
the
final
negotiation is, right.
Okay, makes a lot of sense.
Yep.
Anything on your mind that you want to carry into those next couple of weeks, thinking about the budget ahead of time, initiatives that you want to see rolled out or included?
Yeah, I'm very, there's a couple things that I know we've worked on, and I think they're ready for prime time, so I want to ensure that they get in there. One of them is we, as a state, support children who, or people who have severe physical needs, but we want to keep them in their homes, and so we provide nursing. Mass Health provides nursing, and there's been a real shortage, especially for children who fall in that category. And so I want to make sure that we can do an evaluation of how much it's costing when we don't have when we don't have those nurses available, and doing a cost analysis of what will cost to actually fund that program completely, which we really need to do because there are children who have very severe needs, but can be at home if they have
Which for a child.
the right support. Yeah,
I mean,
yeah, and so I want to get that into the budget.
Okay.
There was a piece where we were allowing certain insurance companies to claw back money that they had given to providers who had provided mental health services for people, but because those providers didn't fill out their paperwork correctly, they said, okay, you owe us, they claw back the money. So we have a great bill that will limit how and when you can claw back, and I hope that that's in the budget because it's been vetted. And then I have we started a pilot for treatment centers where instead of people being in an emergency room or in a jail cell, they could be taken to a place where they could get immediate treatment for either substance use disorder or mental health episode. So we had our first year of the pilot, and we did a lot of due diligence, and so I'm hoping that we're going to fund that next year so that we can come up with a plan to do a pilot in Middlesex County.
Wonderful.
That would be used by first responders and the community. So those are some of the things that I'm going to be looking at, and then pharmaceutical prices.
A lot of stuff going on. I'm sure there's many hats that you wear within the committee to get this thing done.
Yeah.
I know you mentioned just the rising the cost of healthcare and just healthcare in general. Do you see any certain age brackets that are being more dramatically affected, whether it's your district or just the greater Boston or Massachusetts area?
Well, I certainly see it a lot with the elderly. People on fixed incomes, when those pharmaceutical prices, when their drugs go up, it has a real profound effect on their ability to get those drugs. But it's hitting everybody, and it almost doesn't matter if you have health insurance at some point, because you pay a lot for health insurance, but then you find out that you got a lot of co-pays, a lot of deductibles, a lot of things that aren't covered, and so families are being hit. Insulin has gone up 254%, and
no small amount.
And it's no small amount, and nothing's changed.
Yeah.
It's not like it's a new, better drug that you have to take less, or it's the same drug. EpiPens, things, where people depend on them,
Yeah.
500%. So it's really affecting everybody, certainly in working families, middle-class families. They're really getting hit, and the elderly. I think you and I will say our health costs have gone up.
Well, I personally have felt it over the last year just from personal reasons, but absolutely, it happens. It's a real thing.
It's a real thing. So
I know education and opioids have been definitely top of mind in years past. Healthcare this year. Anything else that you're doing that you'd like to share kind of with our viewers today, give them an update on?
Well, I think just that we're going to definitely be looking at education and education funding. It's big. It's, along with healthcare, it's at the top of the list. And we'll be looking at the formula that's used to fund the schools from the state, the Chapter 70 funding. And so I think what's trying to happen is to look at what today's costs are for education as opposed to what they were in 1992, which is the last time we updated the formula.
Right? Yeah, that's, I know last time you talked to us, like, that's an old formula, right? And the law's changed.
So we got close last session between the Senate and the House, but we didn't quite get over, we didn't come to agreement. So that's very much at the top of the list. And then transportation is big. As you know, Boston has now become the worst traffic in the country, so that will be good because maybe that will help push people along to do something about transportation, and then the other piece is housing, affordable housing. So I think those are the big ticket items that I know the Senate is really interested in.
Okay.
And then it's anything that comes up that we don't know about, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Right. You have to be flexible and nimble.
Exactly.
Enough there to keep you busy. I know a issue that we've talked about in the studio here at times, just throughout town, is some of the regulations that are being kicked around from the FCC about
Yes.
repealing
Yes.
potential funding. I know you've been an advocate of local
Yep.
media. Do you mind just spending 30 seconds on that point?
So I know we wrote a letter, and I know there was going to be a discussion, but I don't think that it's happened yet. I don't think there's been a,
Not to my knowledge.
yeah. So I think we're still in limbo,
Okay.
and I think it's something that everybody should be concerned about.
Okay. If they are
Because
concerned, do you mind letting them know how to get involved or how to voice their
well, they can certainly call our office, and they can, or send us an email and let us know, and then we will get in touch with there's a coalition that's working on, advocacy for that, and so I don't have it off
That's okay.
my fingertips,
What's the
but
best way to get a hold of you? Well, we can leave it at that.
best way to get a hold of me is call my office,
Okay.
617-722-1432, or email me at cindy.friedman@masenate.gov.
Wonderful.
And we're always happy to hear from constituents. And I'm going to be having office hours in the next couple weeks in Woburn, and you should look on my website, and
Okay.
everyone's invited
Absolutely.
at the library.
At the library, right? And
Yeah.
if you see her reading a book, you
Yeah,
can
just
interrupt.
come over and interrupt, right?
Oh, good.
Yeah.
I'm glad you could join us again. You have a lot going on, and we appreciate you chunking some time out of your calendar, on your
Yeah.
calendar, to visit us and share what's going on in your world. So
Well, thanks. It's always fun to talk with you, so thanks for having me.
I appreciate that. Anything that you'd like to say in closing?
Enjoy the weather.
Yes, it's that time of year.
Enjoy the weather, yeah.
All right, wonderful. Until next time, Senator Friedman, again, thank you for coming on.
Thank you.
And thank you all for watching today's show. In the words of Senator Friedman, enjoy the weather. Remember, we all have one life to live. Let's do our part. I'm your host, Tyler Gates. Join us again next time for another episode of the Woburn Spotlight.